It's the interview that has shaken the world. Watched by millions across the globe, caused extraordinary controversy, and almost ended a career. It's Piers versus Ye.
And this is the Post Morgan, the only show that can censor part-time national treasure and full-time national pleasure, Piers Morgan, because he's not here.
I'm Josh Peters.
And I'm Archie Manners, really achieving something that Piers Morgan Uncensored never has. Popular hosts.
We're here to go through Piers' big interviews, dissect the controversial moments, and discover what happened next.
And today we've got a very special show for you. Joining us today is TalkTV regular JJ Anisiobi and entertainment correspondent Rebecca Twomey. Welcome. To discuss what might just be Ye's last ever interview.
His name is Ye, so it was Kanye and then it got shortened to Ye.
That's right, Ye or Ye? Whatever. Mr. West did an interview with Piers, and if we're going to play that game, we might as well call Piers Morgan P. Morgan. But whatever, let's move on.
There's just no need for that.
Anyway, I vote nay to Ye. We're all here, so we might as well get on with the show, Joshua.
If you missed all 2 hours of Ye giving his views on everything from Karens to Kims, George Floyd to Jewish people, yes, it was an interview that had it all. Here's a little taste.
It is racism when you say I'm going
So
DEFCON
clarify
for
the
Jewish
truth.
people.
Piers, how much money are you worth?
Not as much as you, sadly.
You're being a Karen.
I'm not a Karen.
La, la, la,
Okay.
la, la. I will say I'm sorry for the people that I hurt.
So it's been a week. It's had over 10 million views. It's got drama, rudeness, appalling opinions, and an almost humble apology. But now we've had time to reflect on the entire thing. JJ and Rebecca, what are our first impressions of this interview?
Yeah, pretty good. It's Kanye doing Kanye, basically, or Ye doing Ye. If you're a proper fan of Kanye, you'll know these are his opinions anyway. He's been saying it in his music, he's been saying it in interviews for years. Him going la 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 is what he taught his kids. So rather than tell his kids to be quiet or shut up, he'd go la 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 la, and that would calm the kids down so they listen to their father.
He said himself in this interview, I'm an entertainer. And didn't he just entertain? He did exactly what he is born on this planet to do, which is cause controversy and entertain us. And I was thoroughly entertained.
Well, on that, we can't go through the entirety of the interview because a lot of it just looked like this.
La, 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 la,
Okay.
la, la.
La 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 la, to put quite a phrase. You're interrupting me now.
To it.
Or this.
Hey, boy.
Don't call
hey,
me boy.
Don't finish. I told you. Oh, don't treat me like a boy then.
So yes, I mean, a lot of it was two adult or supposedly adult men screaming at each other like children, which was astonishing. But beyond that, it was very entertaining.
It was thoroughly entertaining because Kanye wasn't, I don't think he was performing. I think this is the real Kanye we've got. And credit to Piers, he did pull out, all the stops to get Kanye to react. And apart from a little bit of quiet walking off, we didn't quite see too many theatrics. I think this was real Kanye.
Yeah. I felt like out of all the interviews of Piers' I've watched, in this one, he seemed, I don't want to say nervous, but a bit more, didn't want to be too outspoken and speak over Kanye. I felt like he let him speak a lot and he was actually quite reserved.
Kanye West is the biggest celebrity Piers had on his show. He's got more followers than anyone else. He's more influential than anybody else ever had. So he needed to keep him on side and keep him there as long as possible.
So Rebecca, you quite rightly said that the interview was extremely entertaining, which it was. I loved it. But was it necessary and helpful and informative, do you think?
Helpful and informative to who, though? I don't think it did Kanye any harm doing it, but I don't think it did him particularly any good. I think it was just his platform to explain and make the rest of us question, because I think that's what Kanye's all about. He's not about deliberately causing controversy. He's actually there trying to make us all question a bit more. And I think actually for the first time, Piers seemed a little bit like he might be questioning some things.
He did seem later on in the interview, which we'll get to kind of agree with some of what Kanye was saying. And I didn't know that was a tactic to let Kanye speak more and feel loved, or whether Piers' mind was genuinely changing. There is this thing about genius. People that are geniuses can often be just geniuses, but there's also an edge to them, a side of them that can come across as a little bit sporadic and random. I mean, how close is Kanye to genius and how close is he just to random streams of consciousness? He's in that sort of sweet spot, isn't he, between genius and almost unstable.
Kanye gets an unfair rap because he called himself a rap god, and in terms of rap music and production generally, he is a god. Jay-Z can say the same thing. Jay-Z made a song saying, I am a god, and everyone's like, that's cool. No, it's Jay-Z, because he's quieter with it. So Kanye has a different standard publicly to people. People will jump on anything he says at all. They will harass him for it. He is the most influential person in the world, more so than Barack Obama. And
He's not the most influential person in the world.
Look at this.
JJ, you're going to have to forgive Archie. If you could imagine that somebody took a time machine and transported someone from the 1890s into present day, that's basically Archie. So.
Before we were paid to host this, I'd be honest, I'd never heard of him. I'd heard of Kim Kardashian.
I've never heard of Piers Morgan either. That's fine.
But no, I mean, he's not up there with some of the greats, like Mother Teresa, Tim Cook. Like he's
when it comes
he's
to
a guy
Kanye,
who
I can't believe I'm
spat a few
associated.
lyrics.
It's so embarrassing.
It's his clothing.
He's not the most influential.
When he made his first clothing line, all the high street chains, Topshop, H&M, they all went out and copied his style of clothing. And you see a generation of kids dressing in oversized, baggy hoodies, etc., and the nude palettes. That's from Kanye West. He's hugely influential.
Now, I don't think we can talk about this interview without addressing Kanye's response to the accusations of anti-Semitism that were thrown towards him. So let's have a look at his defense of that.
I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people.
I was going to talk about all of the contracts, all of the misdealings that I dealt with as an entertainer.
You're not saying Jewish businessmen, accountants, whatever, that you've had a problem with. You're basically saying in that statement, all Jewish people. One form of racism. It is racism when you say I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people.
Okay, so I'll say this. Would I have grown into the box you want me to go in if I say to specify the business people that have raped my people that just so happen to be Jewish?
Right, so there's a lot to unpack here, and it's obviously slightly more of a serious subject than we might have previously been discussing. Later in the interview, Kanye suggests that he's fighting fire with fire, in that he's been the victim of racism, and that saying he's going to go DEFCON 3 on all Jewish people is a way of retaliating against that. We almost get an apology out of him, which we'll come to later. But JJ, what's your instant reaction to that tweet, going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people? And then Rebecca will come to you in terms of what he said on the show.
The tweet, to me, is anti-Semitic. And I don't like calling it anti-Semitism, I just call it racism. Like, it's a racist tweet. Kanye should have specified business people instead of saying all Jews, because that is just horrendously anti-Semitic. But it is, what's ironic and tragic is that the claims he makes of the Jewish people control the media, etc., he says something anti-Semitic and then he gets cancelled and loses $2 billion. He can now go and say, oh, you see, the Jews are controlling everything, which is just ludicrous. So I don't know how we're going to convince him that he's incorrect about this. There's no way of convincing him.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he's literally taken isolated incidents from his own life, and then said that is the way it is for Jewish people, which is just basically everything racism and anti-Semitism often stems from, taking an isolated incident in someone's life and then saying that this is the way it is across the board.
I've only ever had racism from white people my whole life. But that doesn't mean that all white people are racist.
Yeah.
You two are, but but not everyone.
Well, no.
You know?
Yes. Josh, particularly.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what happens when you work with a South African. Anyway, let's move on. Rebecca, Josh's personal issues aside. Rebecca, what did you make of what he said in the interview with Piers? So we've got that tweet talking about going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, and then he almost seems to double down in the interview and make things worse for himself.
In a way he does, but I think this excuse of, he was going to sleep on it and then start making these accusations about and making it more clear who he was referring to, nobody does that unaware. Nobody sends half of a tweet or a thread and then goes, I'll just wait and carry this on. We all know social media is instant. And I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He knew that would cause a ruckus. This is a guy, let's remember, 2009, the VMAs, when he infamously interrupted Taylor Swift's acceptance speech. He knows what he's doing, and he creates maximum carnage and maximum attention. So I think he's genuinely upset that he might have upset people, but he's not sorry for what he did.
Yes. What I find interesting, it goes exactly to that point we were talking about earlier. Does he know what he's doing? Is this conscious? Is this deliberate? Or is there any veil of forgiveness or understanding because actually maybe he's just completely...
Are you going to use the mental health card here?
I'm not going to use the mental health card. It's not for me to speculate on his mental health at all, but normal people, arguably, that are mentally sound, some would say, do not behave like that. Does he... I suppose the question
Loads of them do as well.
Does he have a defence at all for that kind of behaviour? Or do you think he's absolutely consciously and deliberately doing it?
I mean, you cannot defend racism. That's obviously completely obvious. But I think the way in which he does things and the character that he is, why are we surprised that Kanye West did that?
Yeah.
And why are we surprised he's been cancelled?
I think my own defence for him would be that he has miscommunicated himself. He wanted to say one thing and it's come out sounding completely wrong, which is also odd then because he's one of the greatest lyricists of all time.
One broader point I want to pick up there, which has to do with all of this, is in that interview, did you think Kanye had a clear idea of what he wanted to say and how the interview would go, or was he just jumping around from different streams of consciousness and saying the first thing that came to his mind?
I think he does jump around a lot because he's this great creative brain, in my opinion. And I think he does go on one different tangent and suddenly he'll be talking and the argument moves another way. But I do think he wanted to make his point. I do think it wasn't sort of coerced into this. This is something Kanye wanted to do. And I think he genuinely wants to apologise to people he's upset, but he's not apologising for the points that he makes.
Which means he might do it again. Although, ironically, for a show that's flying in the face of cancel culture, we've now learned that Ye, Kanye, Mr. West, delete is appropriate, whatever he wants to be called, has now been cancelled as a result of his comments. He's lost sponsorship deals and a huge amount of support. As you mentioned, though, he did offer an apology. So let's see that before we hear what our panel have to make of it.
I will say I'm sorry for the people that are hurt with the DEFCON, the confusion that I call. I feel like I cause hurt and confusion. And I'm sorry for the families of the people that had nothing to do with the trauma that I had been through, and that I use my platform where you say hurt people, and I was hurt. I was frustrated.
So, Rebecca, Kanye has now had numerous commercial deals cancelled, literally cancelled. Was that deserved?
I just don't think you can cancel someone. It's not actually possible with someone with his amount of money and prestige. If he wants to set up another line of trainers or clothing or his own record label, he can do that. He's well connected, he's got his own money. So in terms of actually being cancelled long term, and we're still talking about him, if someone's cancelled, that's it, they're erased, they don't work anymore, no one talks about them.
Absolutely, but do you think it was deserved that he lost those commercial deals? He did lost the Adidas deal and I think Gas as well.
Sorry, what? Adidas? Adidas. Not Adidas. Even I know that.
In South Africa, we say Adidas.
It's not Adidas. What else do you do? Shop at Nickel? Absolute flonky.
But
Go back to the
my very rude co-host interrupted me.
Adidas.
Do you think it was justified that they dropped him from those partnerships?
Yes, of course. No big brand wants to be associated with that kind of stuff.
It does seem, JJ, that in all of the controversy that surrounds Ye's life, we've moved into this new phase now where, particularly since Piers' interview, it's hammer time in terms of brands cancelling him. Do you think his position amongst the public and his fans has changed in any way?
His fans are still loyal to him. Go on Instagram, still getting the same amount of likes. Kanye West was a producer who couldn't get taken seriously as a rapper. He then became one of the most successful rappers of all time. He then was an aspiring fashion designer, no one took seriously. He then became the most influential fashion designer of his generation. He was also bankrupted. He was in debt of like 200 million and became the richest black man in history. This is not the end of Kanye West.
You can't cancel Kanye.
No.
He seems to be, like I think a lot of people are, quite frustrated with the way the world is at the moment and that you can't say certain things and you have to behave in a certain way. Now, obviously, he has gone way too far in the other direction, but do we think that's a result of the sort of build-up of the last few years of cancel culture?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying earlier, he knows what he's doing. He's a very clever person, and he deliberately is trying to make us all think and all question and all look at, what is social media doing, what is Twitter doing, what is the power of celebrity, why are we not questioning things? It's okay to disagree with Piers Morgan, and lots of people do. It's okay to disagree with Kanye West.
Following on to that then, yes or no, is Kanye West anti-Semitic?
Yes.
Yeah, he is.
And yet neither of them want to cancel him. Anyway, now we've heard our panellists' opinions and no one cares about ours, but how did the internet react? This is the internet reacting on a reaction show about the reaction to Piers Morgan's reaction to what Ye said in a reaction to Piers Morgan's questions.
Nice.
I will say I'm sorry for the people that are hurt with the DEFCON, the confusion that I call. I feel like I call.
He's saying confusion because he's implying that what he said was not wrong, and the confusion is that he's implying that he didn't do anything wrong. Yeah.
He's literally using legitimate black trauma, which he has also participated in and contributed to in contemporary society, to turn around and be like, oh, well, what the f? That's crazy.
This man, Kanye West, just turn the interview and the conversation into being about money. That is not the direction that Piers Morgan is trying to go.
I'm sure many other artists in the music
Kanye
business.
needs Piers to validate his feelings about that, and then Piers is just trying to say, bro, you shouldn't say what you said. One has nothing to do with the other. They just talking past each other.
I know Candace.
I'm gonna finish. La la.
It's all right.
Where till I get my money right?
Anyway, the other big talking point was Ye's comment on the death of George Floyd, questioning whether the coroner's report into his death was accurate. Indeed, Floyd's family are now suing Ye for $250 million. Let's have a look at the clip.
The cause of death was what that policeman did with his knee to George Floyd.
Person?
Well, why would a coroner lie?
What makes you believe that?
Why would a coroner lie?
Because he could get paid to lie.
Yeah,
because he could get paid to lie. Because he's
I
watched it.
I watched it for 8 minutes.
The majority of the press. I have the right to question because that videotape was used to traumatize my people and force us into the Democratic vote. So we can have 20 different perspectives on how JFK died, but us as black people, not only can we only vote one way, we're not allowed to have any other perspectives.
I don't think it's in question about what actually killed him. It was that police officer with his knee on his neck.
Well, it isn't question. It isn't question. I'm questioning it.
JJ, what did you make of Kanye's response?
He's falling down this conspiracy theory hole of questioning everything way too much. I think George Floyd is particularly a sensitive issue for everyone in the world. But the fact that George Floyd's family is suing him for $250 million, Kanye donated, I think, $3 million or $2 million to the family so that George Floyd's daughter could could have money to go to university and the family can live a slightly better life. So I think it is harsh for them to be suing him for $250 million, regardless of his comments.
But how much should we question things, particularly if you have a platform like Kanye West? It is, I think, a truth universally acknowledged that Derek Chauvin was responsible for the death of George Floyd. And yet at the beginning of that interview, Piers goes, it's not for question. Kanye says, I'm questioning it. And by the end, Piers goes, you have the right to question it. Who does have the right to question? Should we question things like that that are so sensitive?
Always. We're journalists. Journalists, we've been trained our entire careers to question every fact, to give an opinion, to never just take anything as, oh, yes, that's fine, we accept this. So I think the whole point of Kanye is that he wants us to question it, and he's just picking, I think, a very big case.
He's not a journalist, he's a rapper. So he's
a creative, he's allowed to create
art. Does that give him the right, therefore, to question the death of somebody who universally acknowledged and found in court by a coroner's report to have died in a particular way? Is he right?
Everybody is allowed to question, and now everyone has a platform because of social media.
But I think it comes down to the way in which you do question it. By nature of questioning things, you are going to be upsetting a lot of people. So I suppose it's how you do it in a respectful way, which is a really difficult thing.
Kanye questions everything. If you go back to his first album, College Dropout, he was rapping about the fact that before he even could afford to buy a house, when he got his advance check for his album, he went to the jeweler and bought loads of gold and a fancy car because that's what stereotypically rappers are supposed to do.
All Falls Down is largely about that.
Exactly.
I've honestly not a clue.
And that was like way before its time of sort of acknowledging that people spend a lot of money on things to cover up their insecurities.
Yeah, precisely. So Kanye's made that, his whole life has been about questioning everything. You're right. The way he questions George Floyd's murder, I'll call it, is disrespectful, I think, to the family and to the wider public. Everyone was affected by that, not just the family. So that doesn't paint him in the greatest of light.
Okay, so perhaps we shouldn't take everything Ye says at face value, because if we did, there'd be absolutely no reason to have anyone else on the planet, because Ye knows it all. And Ye can do it all. Take a look.
The idea for Django, I pitched to Jamie Foxx and Quentin Tarantino as the video for Gold Digger. I'm like top 5 writers in human history. But I also believe that I'm extremely brilliant and I'm here to make the world a better place. I can make a dinosaur out of a femur. Me, a person, a successful, influential, extremely attractive person to get to that point. Matisse, more Matisse than Picasso, more African cubism than Matisse. So I just do that. I throw out that kind of for the liberals. And that's the funny thing.
When you say you're more Matisse than Picasso, as somebody who's a fan of Matisse and Picasso, actually, I spent a lot of time in Saint-Tropez where they all used to paint together.
Now, what really worries me about that is it reminds me of early clips of Donald Trump. And if you look very carefully at the hat that he is wearing, I don't know if you noticed what year is on Ye's hat. It's 2024, where he might end up running for president. Do you think there's a chance of that?
Yeah, there's a chance of it, but he's not going to win, clearly. He's not going to win. He hasn't got enough support across white America to win. But the thing with Kanye West bragging, the reason you're making fun of it is because as a society, we like people bragging. Lionel Messi, Ronaldo, they don't go around saying, I'm the best footballer in the world. Other people say it about them. But when someone else takes it and says, actually, I'm the best footballer in the world, you say, oh, well, that's arrogant and you shouldn't be saying that. But everything that Kanye said there, I have to agree with.
He's extremely, extremely brilliant. He's as good as Monet.
Yeah, he is, for what he does, for certain.
As a creative, I think he's on that level.
He said he was one of the top 5 writers of all time. I can remind you of some writers.
But you haven't seen anything. You don't know a single Kanye West
William
song.
Shakespeare, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, but he might be the same as him.
I can list hundreds of writers that are better than... Give me some of his lyrics. Give me one of his lyrics. Blurt, tell me a lyric.
Nah, you're putting me on the
Can any of you give me a Kanye lyric?
I could.
Give me a Kanye lyric.
Not TV.
All the walls are staged. To be or not to be. There are thousands of better lyrics than college dropout. 3 of the most meaningless words that lead to a usual lifetime of deprivation and failure.
It's the name of an album.
Yes, it is an album. It's not great writing. It's college dropout.
No,
What a load of absolute...
You're so wrong. But do you think a lot of his insecurities maybe come from the fact that he worked so hard and took so long to actually make it in the industry? I just watched his documentary recently on
I think Jimmy Cooper's better writing than his.
But he got put down all throughout his career.
That's it.
And struggled to make it to the top. And it took, 10, 15 years of writing all the best songs,
We've been doing this for 10, 15 years, and this is as good as it's getting. So I don't think,
Excuse me, this is pretty good stuff. Thank you.
But JJ, do you think that plays into his insecurities, that sort of forever being held down? Now he is on the top and he's made it, and he feels the need to constantly brag and talk about it.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, when he was trying to be a rapper, the rappers said, Jay-Z and Dame Dash said, you're not a rapper, we're not going to put you on a thing. But he's trying to do fashion, the fashion world rejected him. Yet he's gone into every industry he's gone into and taken it over. Nike didn't want to pay him the same royalties that they'd pay a professional athlete to do trainers for them, even though he did one trainer for them.
Because he's a singer, athletes need trainers.
But he designed a Nike trainer and it outsold athlete trainers.
Fair enough. We have to move on. I'm being shouted at in my ear, so I'm sorry to shut you up, JJ. We're coming now to the end of our inaugural show, but there's still time for a segment which we're calling Things That Age Terribly.
Piers, how much money are you worth?
Not as much as you, sadly.
Exactly, so take my advice. Maybe you'll get richer.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks to our guests, JJ Anisiobi and Rebecca Twomey.
Do join us next time. Piers can't be bothered to present his own shows on YouTube because he's spending so much time with Picasso, Monet and Saint-Tropez.
Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yay!
So Josh is the looks and the brain. That's normally...
No!